Welcome all the members back to Parliament for the 2023.
Prime Minister, Australians are facing a cost of living crisis. The government has wasted $450 million on the Prime Minister's voice referendum, $250 million on monitoring hardcore criminals who did not need to be released. So will the Prime Minister rule out wasting more taxpayers' money on creating up to 53 new federal politicians and 200 or more staff who would come with them?
That's the call.
I thank the Leader of the National Party for his question, which goes to an attack on the existence of politicians. And the suggestion, let me say this, the suggestion that some politicians are a waste of money, I think he's right. I think he's right, Mr. Speaker. Because what you could have over there, is one of those buttons that you can have.
The Leader of the Nationals has asked his question.
Mr. Speaker, and you press them and they just say no in different ways. No. You set them all up there, and no matter what the legislation was, you press the button and there it'll be no. Mr.
Member for
Speaker.
Hume.
Those opposite the National Party are perfectly happy for anyone to buy water other than the Australian government to protect the environment. They're very happy for foreign companies to buy water. In fact, more water is owned by foreign companies that is owned by the Commonwealth Environment Water Holder. They're very happy to sell water. The member for New England, the shadow minister, when he was the water minister, bought $80 million of water.
The minister will pause. The Leader of the Nationals on a point of order.
On relevance, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Members on my right.
Don't laugh at what you don't understand. Mr.
Order.
Speaker.
The Leader of the Nationals will get to his point of order quickly.
Relevance, Mr. Speaker. The question was very specific about whether the government has done any modelling on their Murray-Darling Basin plan to communities and the cost of implementing that.
The minister has had a preamble. The question was not about the opposition or their policies. I'm going to direct her back to the question.
No, but thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would say...
Order.
I would say...
The Leader of the Nationals...
It is... If the Leader of the Nationals really cared about farming communities, he would pass this legislation, because he knows that if this legislation is not passed by the end of the Senate sitting period, then there will be automatic reconciliation that will drop water entitlements automatically. You should know that. And when the member for New England was the water minister, he was happy to buy water. He bought $80 million worth of water from a company set up in the Cayman Islands by the Shadow Treasurer. So they don't mind water buybacks if it's a foreign company. If it's the Shadow
refused to back energy price relief that would have helped manufacturers. I'll take the interjection. Thank you so much for that. The Deputy Leader was a member of a government that said EVs would ruin and end the weekend, but now supports the manufacture of the charging equipment of the cars they don't want on the roads.
Because we know we're not going to have electric vehicles tomorrow, and no one in the world is making an electric ute, by the way.
I mean, this is the confused state of support for manufacturing by those opposite, and Australian manufacturing deserves.
The time has concluded.
I've said to him before, given that this is currently before me as a decision maker, I'm not able to comment.
The Minister have you completed your answer?
No, I thought you were drawing them.
No, I was saying the Minister and the member for Fairfax can cease their interjections. My apologies.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. I thought you were asking me to take a seat while you quietened them down. Mr. Speaker.
Order.
He said it yesterday, I quoted as well, just to keep both sides of this dysfunctional political organisation on side. I quoted both Malcolm Turnbull and Tony Abbott.
A young female journalist asked if a woman who had been assaulted by one of those released deserved an apology. Not only did the Attorney-General refuse to apologise, he aggressively shouted at the young female journalist. Has the Prime Minister forced the Attorney-General to apologise?
The Minister deserves to be heard in silence because the question was asked in silence. The Minister has the call.
Thank you. I note with some irony the previous question about shouting at women when you do that, but thank you very much for the protection.
Order.
Can I then just...
Do you have any thoughts about the likelihood that he's going to be the new federal opposition leader?
Oh, well, apparently he will be. He's an extremist. He's an extremist. And I don't think he fits with modern Australia at all. And he doesn't seem to listen. He's extremely conservative. I actually don't think he's that smart.
When will the Liberals liberate their own party from themselves and evolve with the times? Or are they doomed to end up a minority party?
We've got a proud history of governing this nation and we're going nowhere. We've just...
Do you mean that literally?
Yeah,
agreed.
Today from this Prime Minister could not be more different from the approach you saw over the past decade, Mr Speaker. A decade of division, of duck shoving and of savage funding cuts. Duck shoving, of course, exemplified by the member for Cook, the former Prime Minister, and his daily refrain, his daily protest, "That's not my job." And, of course, cuts. And of cuts who were championed more than any other person from that former government than the Leader of the Opposition when he was Australia's Health Minister. Far from working together for Australia, Mr Speaker, the 2014 budget document shows the approach of the Leader of the Opposition. He cut $50 billion in his first budget. Now he says, oh, rubbish. It's here. It's here, sunshine, in the graph, mate.
Comes to order. We'll hear from the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
My question is to the Minister for Home Affairs. The Minister failed to prepare for an expected High Court loss and then falsely claimed she was advised she would win. She claimed urgent laws weren't necessary until we wrote them for her. She claimed the Coalition's preventative detention proposal was utterly impossible, but now says Parliament won't rise without legislating it. She can't explain how one of the criminals she released has disappeared. Minister, why is your job safe when the Australian public is not?
Order. Members on my right will cease interjecting before the Minister speaks. The Minister for Home Affairs and Cybersecurity has the call.
Thank you, Speaker. I'll leave the political commentary to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition there. And I would say to those of you who are here in the chamber that I see that the opposition's had a little bit of a meeting this morning and they've decided that they're going to spend today making a political attack on me. Well, congratulations. Congratulations. You can do that and you're free to do that. But I would just say that it says a hell of a lot more about you than it does about me.
Member for Hume on a point of order. Need him to state the point of order.
Relevance, Mr Speaker. The question was about Labor's long list of economic failures. He could just talk about one of them, and that would be relevant.
Seat. The question had a number of moving parts to it, and it finished with about the Prime Minister's priorities. If you're going to ask a question with a tag at the end, he will be able to obviously respond to that. So you've made a claim at the end of the question, and that's what he's responding to, and he's talking about economic data. I don't know how he can... Well, that's the question, and he's answering it. So if you don't want that, don't ask him, and he won't be able to compare and contrast. The Prime Minister has the call. Order.
Thanks, Mr Speaker.
Order.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Order.
This bloke's lost 2 pre-selections in the last week.
Member for Kennedy, as I have said to him before, I can't comment on individual projects. I make these 2 general sets of comments. Queensland can absolutely
Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
A censor.
The Deputy Leader of the Opposition knows that is inappropriate. Will cease interjecting, or will be warned.
How's your pre-selection going?
Order. The minister will return to the question.
Thank you.
The minister will pause. The member for Gippsland will leave the chamber under 94A and take his whatever he's got with him and not leave it behind. The minister in continuation will be heard in silence.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I thank the honourable member for his question. It's the last sitting week of the year, and the honourable member just rustled up his 4th question to me all year, Mr Speaker. So congratulations. Took you all year to get 4 questions, which is a great achievement. The Treasurer's worried about productivity. You might want to have a look at the member for Fairfax. Now,
Order. The member for Petrie, I'm not sure what you're doing, but just order. We'll just cease the interjections for the time being.
Sundays with Stoker, Mr Speaker. former minister, she runs it. You can't think of a Sunday without Sunday with Stoker. The honourable member for Fairfax was on, and he said, if you look at Canada, even today, they have even between 50 and 60% of their grid is nuclear. They pay half the energy prices of Australia. And I had to pause and rewind and listen again, because I thought, actually, I know that 50 to 60% of Canada's power comes from renewable hydro energy, Mr Speaker. Hydro energy. Less than 15 comes from nuclear. As Electricity Canada said, Canada's access to renewable natural resources allows for some of the lowest residential electricity prices in the world. So, Mr Speaker, I table the honourable member for Fairfax's transcript, and I table the report from Electricity Canada showing their renewable prices are some of the cheapest prices in the world.
Requires exposure drafts. It requires conversations. It requires debate. It will include all the things that actually produce good legislation at the end of the process. And that's what I want to see. That's what his deputy said, not last year, but last month, just a fortnight ago. That's what the Deputy Leader of the Opposition had to say.
The
because
Leader of the Nationals.
They are simply not being fair dinkum. The conspiracy theories are colliding with each other, Mr Speaker. Because if they think the Voice is a bad idea, why are they going to legislate it?
136 of the projects, of the announced projects, were all in Liberal-held seats, with only 26 in Labor-held seats. And if you looked at those figures, you'd think that Australia's most congested roads are only located in those that vote for the Liberal Party. Well, really, there's no congestion in the west of Melbourne. Ipswich and Logan are a haven for traffic-free roads. We've got Parramatta and Blacktown and Punchbowl and Cabramatta, a 10-minute commute from there, apparently. As if, really. No matter where Australians live or who Australians vote for, they deserve to have their projects assessed on merit.
About his words before the election about energy prices, I will order. I'll ask the Prime Minister to return to the question. I'm listening carefully to his answer, and he is in order. I give him the call. Order. The Leader of the Opposition.
The more pathetic the question, the louder the interjections.
The Prime Minister will
the
continue.
more pathetic and weak they come in here. They spent all last week talking about super. Where is it? The sounds of silence. The sounds of silence.
In our economy. Pause. Take a seat for a moment so I can hear from the Manager of Opposition Business.
On relevance, the question was about how the government's delivering cost of living relief and what are the obstacles to this being delivered. And this Treasurer has been straying to areas that are well outside the terms of that. He is a serial offender.
All right. Order. Members on my right. The Treasurer is outlining obstacles. I'll just make sure the obstacles are related to the question, and he has the call.
Thanks, Mr Speaker. Those opposite would rather fight Labor than fight inflation. Inflation is moderating, but the Liberals and Nationals aren't. The party of robo-debt has learnt nothing from a decade of failure, and that stench will remain even after the member for Cook leaves us.